Good to have you with us today, Johnson Edition, and we've got the entire Johnson Edition. Johnsons, how you doing?
We're doing great. How are you, Robert?
Hey, I'm doing great. It is great to have you here. First of all, before we talk about Johnson Edition and the origin of the group and some background into the group, I want to let you know that your music is superb. Your music catches the attention of people that don't know you. I'm one that does not know Johnson Edition, but when I heard the music, boy, it automatically grabs you and says, I got to have some more of that stuff.
Well, thank you very much.
We appreciate hearing that.
Let me ask Edition. Now, there's Johnson family, Johnson siblings, there's the Johnsons, but you decided to go with Johnson Edition. Why was that?
Because there's so many Johnson family, Johnson this, Johnson that. So we were like, how can we take the name Johnson and make it something unique and catchy and different? And it was actually something that we had looked at other group names that kind of didn't use our family name. And actually Ron Blackwood recommended to us that we go ahead and use our family name in some form or fashion to let people know that, hey, this is a family group. So we tried to find a fun, unique way to use Johnson that wasn't just the same old, use of the name Johnson that kind of lost us in the crowd.
Well, I looked up the word edition, as a matter of fact, and it says a particular form or version, of course, of a public text, or published text, but in this particular case, obviously, it's a family. But, hey, I think that fits then what you were talking about. It's a particular form or version of the Johnsons.
And that was another reason why we went with the edition too, because we felt like at the time our music was a little bit different. Even though it is Southern gospel, it's a little bit different than your standard Southern gospel that a lot of people are familiar with. We kind of merged different styles in together to make our sound that we have now. And so we kind of felt like it was our version of music. And so it's Johnson's edition of music.
Well, then let me ask you about that music. And I want to go back in a little bit and get some background information on each of you individually. But where the music is concerned itself, is there a deliberate effort to make it a little different? Or is that just the Johnson sound to your music?
Go ahead.
We listened to so many different styles of music growing up. And our favorites in gospel music were always the groups that had unique sounds, like the Gaither Vocal Band, the Martins, the Isaacs, people that had a definite signature sound to what they did. And so in us developing as a group, and as we were growing up, because we started singing when we were kids, but as we were growing up and kind of developing our own style, it just kind of merged into what it has become from our different takes on what we like in music.
I read the bios, and when I read the bios of each member of the group, one name, when it says favorite music, one name is common between all four, and that's the Martins. So they've obviously got an influence on you. Plus, I read where Jonathan Martin has sung on one of your projects and has produced your projects.
Yes.
So y'all kind of like the Martins.
Just a little bit, yeah. We can definitely say, growing up, when we first started getting roots in gospel music and listening to gospel music, the Martins were somebody that we took to, and they were definitely a major influence early on.
And then as getting to know them as people, we love them even more because they are just so down to earth and very lovable people. They just, they really show the true Christian spirit. So.
Well, that leads me to the next question then, because you can like somebody and not necessarily know somebody. Where the Martins are concerned, you obviously admire their music, but since Jonathan sings and produces, how did that come to be that you met the Martins and got involved with them from a production standpoint?
Okay, so that's a really interesting story. We had met the Martins when we were very young at a Gaither event. But nothing really came of that. We just, we met them and we got to talk to them for a few minutes. And then years later, we were in the process of working on a project with a producer who is actually a friend of the Martins, and the Martins they had gotten back together after their stint of time that they had split up and done their own separate things. And so they had gotten back together, and they were bringing their tour to our area. So being the Martins fans that we were, when we found out that they were coming to our area, we made it a point to go and see them. And Jathyn actually had done a solo concert with us
In 2004.
2004. And so when we got reconnected with them, that was in 2013. Is that correct?
2012.
2012. So we got reconnected with them in 2012. And when we went to the concert, we went through the meet and greet, and Jathyn remembered us, and specifically remembered some of the things that we had done for his kids when he had come to do that concert with us. He brought his kids with him, and we did some special things for them. So that stood out to him about us, and got to talking to him about what we were doing at that point in time. He found out that we were working on a project, and that Danny Crawford was the producer on that project. And he said, well, where are you guys at in the production standpoint? And we said, well, we've just got finished working on the tracks. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, he said, tell Danny that when you guys get ready to do the vocals, give me a call and I'll come and work on the vocals with him.
Well, and y'all had to think about it, right?
Yeah. We thought about it for all of about 2 seconds.
After we picked ourselves up out of the floor, we had to.
How much of an influence is he on the sound, though, on the current sound of Johnson Edition? Does he add a unique flavor to that sound? Has he changed something, tweaked something?
I would say he definitely had his thumbprints are on the two projects that he's helped produce for us. They definitely have a little more Martin flavor than what we could do on our own because of his influence in the project.
And really, more than anything, one of the reasons that we like working with Jathyn is that he listened to what we wanted, and then just kind of enhanced our ideas and what we were already bringing to the table. So that's when it works out well between a group of people and a producer, when they can listen and bring out more of what you're wanting than what you're actually able to verbalize or perform yourself without their guidance, which is what a producer is for.
And as a producer, he's extremely encouraging and very, he's very much, when he asks you to do something and you go in wondering if you can do it or not, but he's, a great coach and a great encourager all at the same time. So it was a great experience.
Well, as I mentioned in the outset, I love the progressive sound. But let's face it, there's some that, they're more on the traditional sound. Do you get a little concerned sometimes? Do you worry sometimes when you might walk into a church and go, are they going to accept our sound? Or do you have stuff? I've talked to Leslie Chastain, who, by the way, set us up where the interview is concerned. Thank you, Leslie. But Leslie says, hey, they do some of the old stuff too.
Yes,
it's very true. With our sound and us being a family group, what we want one of the things that we want from our music is to connect families. We want it to be something that not only the young people will hear and get interested in gospel music, but we also want it to be something that their grandparents will enjoy, and they can go and sit in a concert together and listen to music that they both enjoy. So we do try to mix it up with our contemporary sound, and then we still throw in some traditional songs that people have heard for years. And
you asked earlier if what we do was intentional. That is one of the things that is very intentional. We place those old songs in there and try to do them respectively. Even though we do put our own little twist on it, and with some of them, we take them a little more in the more progressive styling, but we try to be very respectful when we do it. And so all of that is very intentional.
And going to concerts and all, the thing that we love the most is when we hear people come up to the table afterwards and say, you have a different sound, but I love it. And it's older people who are telling us this, and they're like, we love the mixture that you're bringing, to us and all, that you're giving us stuff that we like to hear, but also giving our kids and grandkids stuff that they like to hear as well. So that's always a thumbs up for us, and like, thank you. We appreciate that. We want to hear that. So
I guess I should have, and I'm going to do this before asking the next question. I probably near the front should have had each of you introduce yourselves individually so the people can put a first name with a last name. So let me do that before we go on. Why don't you introduce yourselves individually?
All right.
sure,
Oldest
start with the
youngest.
oldest.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm the oldest in the group, and my name is Breayn.
I'm Jathyn.
I'm Westyn.
And I'm Destiny.
Okay, question then. Sibling rivalry. When you're deciding a song, when you're deciding a program list, when you're putting it together, and, you know, hey, siblings are going to have rivals at times. So who wins?
Why does everybody always ask us that?
I don't know so much that it's a rivalry as it is that we are 4 individuals, and being 4 individuals, we often have 4 different ideas. And so reining all those ideas in and bringing it together, it can be challenging at times. However, I think that kind of is what creates our sound, because our different ideas coming from different stylistic views and stylistic preferences, bringing all of that together, and each of us being willing to compromise our stance for the other 3 individuals' stances, it allows us to be able to have the sound and the look and the performance that we have.
You know, it's interesting to me, too, that I mentioned previously where the favorite music is concerned, the common thread between all 4 of you was the Martins. But then you look at some diversity, you know, from Celine Dion to Rascal Flatts. So when there are those discussions, though, and there's that, I don't want to call it friction, but there's just a differing opinion. How do you iron that out? How do you work it out?
Oh.
Normally we go with majority rules.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're we try to be very diplomatic that way. The vote carries a lot of weight.
And
so.
Also, if Mama has to step in and give her opinion, we take that as well. Our mom is a huge supporter of our ministry and a huge help. She actually does our set list for us when we're doing our programs and all for our concerts. So she is a tremendous help, and she helps us pick songs for our new projects and stuff, and we are so thankful for her, having her along with us in this journey of our ministry. So
if anybody's wondered who the 5th member of Johnson Edition is, it's Mom.
It also helps sometimes to just walk away and then come back to it later.
Right.
Indeed. Well, you know, that is interesting, though, that you say your mom, so she picks out the set. You don't know what you're singing. Well, you may have an idea based on previous nights, but it's Mom who decides what you sing that night, which leads me to believe that it's Mom who does have an influence on the songs you put on a project, too.
Yes. Yeah. And she does ask us, like when we're getting ready for a concert, she'll ask us, is there any songs that you particularly feel like you need to do tonight? Let me know, and I'll make sure that they're in the list. So
yeah, she's always been really good at coordinating things like that. So we trust in her expertise in that field. And
specifically, one of the songs that she brought to the table of one of our projects, I believe it was the first one that Jonathan worked on, was Consider the Lilies, the old Hemp Hills song. And so none of us were really super familiar with the song. I think we had heard it before, but we weren't incredibly familiar with it. But when we listened to it, we were like, yeah, mom's right. This is gonna be good.
Well, this brings also, the mom factor brings a whole new insight into the favorite foods, because now who was it that listed Mom's German chocolate cake? Trying to win brownie points with Mom, right?
Mom knows she's my favorite. I don't make that a secret. Anybody that knows me knows that Mom's my favorite.
Every birthday, and this is the absolute truth, every birthday, nobody has to wonder what kind of cake Westyn is going to get, because every birthday it is the same request: make me a German chocolate cake.
All right, so your favorite. I also noticed, I think, Destiny, that cornbread and pinto beans was one of, is that right?
Yes.
One of your favorites.
That's right.
Okay, well, that's a little different for a favorite, but hey, as long as you like it. I do have one question for you, Destiny. I looked and I noticed that everybody's name ends with YN except you. I mean, now, is there something in a name from the perspective, are you a little unique, different from that perspective, or is that just coincidence that it's the two consonants reversed?
Yeah, I think it's just coincidence. It wasn't really planned or anything. My mom, when she knew that she was going to have me, she was just joking with my grandmother at one day and said she was going to name me Destiny. And my grandmother fell in love with the name and said, "Oh, you've got to name her that. You've got to name her that. It's such a pretty name." So she ended up naming me Destiny because one of the reasons why she said, this is the last one. I know this is the last one. She had already had 4, and I was the 5th one, and she was like, this is it. So she's our Destiny.
Okay.
And so my grandmother fell in love with it, and actually, it was kind of special because 19 days after I was born, our grandparents had a car accident and our grandmother passed away. Oh. So it's kind of a special memory for me to hear my mom tell me that story because, it was something to connect me to my grandmother since I didn't really actually get to know her.
Breayn, you are the oldest of the group.
I am.
So I guess before let me ask you this first. Florida, you're the only one born in Florida, everybody else from South Carolina. Why?
That is correct. My mother's parents, her dad was a minister for many, many years, and so he pastored in all different states. So at the time that she was pregnant with me, they were actually pastoring in Florida. And so my parents went down to visit, and while they were down there, Mom got sick and was unable to travel back home. So they actually had to move in with my grandparents, and my grandmother took care of my mother while through the rest of the pregnancy until I was born. And so they just had to move in with my grandparents, and Dad had to get a job down there, and so they just had to stay there until I was born. And then after I was born, they brought me back home to South Carolina.
Let me ask this as far as, and I'm going to put these on, I can't see real well, so these are I've been told I look far more educated with these glasses on, so I'm going to wear them for a minute, but because it was a little blurry and now it is clearer, it does not look like there's a big age discrepancy from youngest to oldest. So what is the age differences?
It's 8 years from the oldest to the youngest.
So about every 2 years.
And we actually have another sister that actually falls between Jathyn and I in age. She's 3 years younger than I am.
The only other one that has a name that doesn't end in YN.
That's correct.
Oh, so there's 2. Okay. Now, is she musically inclined as well, or?
Whenever we first started, when we were kids and growing up and singing and first started our group, because we started out singing with our parents. They traveled and did children's ministry. They had a puppet ministry, and they travel and do kids crusades and vacation Bible schools and different things. And then they also sang. So we started out singing with them, and our sister sang with us then. And then when we first went out on our own doing just the siblings, she was with us when that happened. But in what year was that?
2012.
Mm-hmm. So in 2012, she had gotten married, and she had her first child. She already had a little boy, and she found out that she was about to have her little girl, and she decided she was going to come off the road and be a mom. So she left us with this ministry, and she gets to be a mom, and we like it that way because we get to spoil those kids and then send them home.
Hey, perfect. That's the way to work it out. Before I ask you how our audience can get product and more information on Johnson Edition, I would like to know where you would like to take this ministry, and maybe it's not written down in stone or a hardcore path that you've decided, but I think almost anybody that is in the ministry kind of thinks maybe unconsciously ahead as to, where they would like to take, in this particular case, Johnson Edition. So where is it you want to go?
I mean,
first and foremost, we want to be wherever God wants
Amen.
to take us. So we always want to make sure that we try to be mindful of where he's leading and the doors that he's opening.
That being said, though, we want to reach as many people as we possibly can. So as big as he wants it to go, that's as big as we want it to be. And as I said earlier, with style choices and all, one of the things that we really want, we want to see sinners saved. We want to see believers encouraged, but we also want to see families connected through Christ, because God created the family unit. He created it the way that it's supposed to be. So putting him at the center of it is our responsibility and what we should do. But we want to create a music and a form of not a ministry, but also entertainment and all that the family can enjoy together and can create a bond over. So that's what we want from our ministry, most of all.
Where product information is concerned, they can go to your website, I guess, and get information on you, your product, where you're going to be. If you're going to be somewhere, I guess it depends on when this pandemic ends.
Right.
But so where do they go to find out that information?
Yeah, so you can go to www.johnsonedition.com, and you can check out our tour page and get our CDs and T-shirts available on that website as well. We also have a donation tab on there. If anybody would like to donate to our ministry, they can do that as well. And actually, we do have a few dates coming up that are sticking with it and saying they're going to have us. Most of those are drive-in concerts. So it's just driving up to the church, and we'll be on the porch singing and doing it.
Makes us feel at home.
We'll be doing it outside, but hey, it doesn't matter as long as we're together and we can share the love of God. We will do it. So,
and shameless plug, if you can't see us live and in person, you can find us on Facebook.
Yes.
And keep an eye on Facebook, because we have started doing a series on Facebook where we are doing Thursday nights, and we either do a theme song Thursday where we perform theme songs from popular television shows. Like, for instance, this Thursday we did
yesterday.
Yesterday we did the Jeffersons and Welcome Back, Cotter. So we kind of went way back.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Wait back.
You did. That's right. You did not go way back. Okay.
Just one way back then.
That's right.
So yeah, we've done that was our first theme song Thursday, but we've also done a throwback Thursday. So we're enjoying this, kind of coming up with a fun idea, fun interaction for us and people that like music and like things like that, to just get on and have some fun with us. And also, Johnson Edition can't do anything without putting a little bit of Jesus in it. So we always end up talking a little bit about Jesus. So.
Well, good deal, Johnson.
During this time too with COVID-19, we just thought it'd be a great opportunity for families to get together and just have a little bit of family time and a little bit of fun with it.
So they can find us at Johnson Edition, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And is that a set time on Thursday nights?
It is. Right now we are doing at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay. So 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and you say it is Facebook and Twitter?
No, it's just Facebook.
Just
right
Facebook.
now.
Okay. All right. So check it out on Facebook Thursday nights, 7:30 our time, 8:30 Eastern, Johnson Edition. I can't let you go, though, without mentioning the brand new song, My Life a Testimony, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Correct. Great song. And tell us the story behind the tune.
So who pitched us that song?
Well, yeah, Jonathan brought the song to us.
Yes.
But Daywin was actually the the one that
company.
the publishing
Yeah.
company, yeah, that sent it to Jonathan. So
It was written by Kenna Turner West, Jason Cox,
mhm.
and Devin McGlamory.
Yes.
Yes.
So the first time we heard this song, when with picking out songs for our latest album, which actually that song became the title cut, our newest album is called Testimony. And with picking out songs for that album, there seemed to be a common thread of messages flowing through that just we saw a vision that this was what we wanted our lives to be, is a testimony for Jesus. And each one of those songs had a little different fragment of what that would look like in somebody's personal walk with God. So but that song in particular, we've kind of adopted it as our group's
Testimony.
mission statement. We want our lives to be a testimony for Jesus, whether on stage, off stage, no matter what we're doing, we want our life to be a testimony for Christ and reflect God's love in whatever we do.
And we've actually found, since we recorded the song, that the message in that song doesn't just hit home for us as ministers of the gospel, but for many other ministers of the gospel. They hear that song and they're like, man, that song just speaks to me so much. Because I mean, that's what all of us, that's what our prayer should be. That's what our goal should be, is that our lives, as we live and breathe every breath, it should be to glorify him and to uplift his name and to be that testimony to the world, so that they could see a glimpse of him in us and want what we have.
Great song, great group, by the way. Y'all keep up the great work. There is a very bright future for Johnson Edition, and it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. I want to encourage our listeners to, if they haven't they've heard your music because they've heard it on WTJT, but if you want more than just the stuff that's released to radio, it's johnsonedition.com, and then you say Thursday night, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, and it's Johnson Edition. Is that where we go on Facebook?
Yes,
That's
That's
right.
correct.
Okay. All right. So folks, go there and
And
check it out.
they didn't mention that we're kind of doing that bi-weekly. It may not be every single week, but
Okay.
if you keep a lookout on our page, you'll see the updates of when we're going to be doing it.
Yeah, you can just go like our page and follow us, and it will let you know whenever we post about the event and when it's coming up. So
That's
You
the
can
perfect
also
suggestion.
You can also stream our music on Apple Music.
Okay. So there you have it. All kinds of means by which to get the music of Johnson Edition and then see Johnson Edition as well. I'm assuming there's probably something on YouTube too, some video
There
from
is.
Yes.
from some service available.
yeah, and actually I am working, I'm in the process of getting a YouTube channel set up, and it will be Johnson Edition, so it'll be easy to find, and that should be coming in the next week or so.
And somehow I feel like probably Johnson Edition is going to be one of those groups that does concept videos. Is that something that probably is in the future as well?
It is in the vision.
We
Yes.
have definitely been
Yes.
talking about that.
All right. We'll look forward to it. Johnson Edition, we sure appreciate y'all being with us tonight, and thanks for the great music.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
for playing our
Robert.
music.
Yeah.
Yes, and thank you for having us. We appreciate you having us on the show.
Thank you.